For centuries, people around the world have told stories of humans transforming into animals and other beings. This act of shape-shifting, changing one's physical form through magic, divine will, or curse, appears in humanity's oldest myths. From ancient Greek legends to Navajo folklore, shapeshifters abound in cultural traditions across every continent. Werewolves prowl European tales. Trickster foxes like the Kitsune of Japan and Hulijing of China beguile the East, and the dreaded Navajo skinwalker stalks the American Southwest. These enduring legends reflect deep human fascinations and fears about the boundary between man and beast, self and other. In this documentary narrative, we will explore famous mythological shapeshifters such as werewolves, kitsune, and skinwalkers, and see how shapeshifting lives on in modern books, movies, and video games.
Along the way, we'll delve into the historical context of these legends and the cultural meanings behind our timeless obsession with shape changers.
One of the most infamous shapeshifters of Western lore is the werewolf, a person who transforms into a wolf. The term werewolf literally comes from Old English wer, meaning man, and wolf, literally man-wolf. Werewolf legends are ancient. In Greek mythology, a brutal Arcadian king named Lycaon angered Zeus by serving him a meal of human flesh and was punished when Zeus transformed him into a wolf, a tale that gave rise to the term lycanthropy for wolf transformers. Northern Europe had its own wolfish myths. The Norse saga of the Volsungs tells of a father and son who discovered enchanted wolf pelts. Whenever they donned these skins, they became wolves for 10 days, succumbing to bloodlust until the spell ran its course. Such stories reveal an early belief that magic objects or curses could induce a man to turn into a savage wolf. By medieval times, fear of werewolves was widespread in Europe, often intertwined with fears of witches. Historical records show that during Europe's witch trials, there were also werewolf trials. In 16th century France, for example, several men such as Pierre Burgot, Michel Verdun, and Gilles Garnier were accused of making pacts with the devil and using salves or belts to become wolves. Under torture, they confessed to vicious murders committed in wolf form and were executed as werewolves. One notorious case was that of Peter Stubbe in Germany, who in 1589 was said to turn into a wolf-like creature at night and terrorize his town. According to pamphlets, hunters claimed they caught Stubbe shape-shifting from wolf to human, leading to his gruesome execution for lycanthropy. These lurid accounts reflect how people once used the werewolf legend to explain brutal crimes, blaming a beast when faced with horrors they could not otherwise comprehend. Folklore has various explanations for how someone becomes a werewolf. Some legends say it is a curse or divine punishment, as in Lycaon's case. Others describe witches' magic, an enchanted wolf pelt or sash that, when worn, triggers the transformation. In many tales, a werewolf bite or scratch can pass the curse to a new victim, and while today we associate werewolves with the full moon, this was just one of many folk ideas, popularized later by modern fiction. Curiously, even now people note that the full moon can bring out animalistic behavior in some individuals, a notion backed by odd hospital stats of increased biting incidents on full moon nights. Traditional lore also insists that when transformed, werewolves are ferocious and bloodthirsty, often unable to control the beast within. This makes the werewolf a powerful metaphor for the dual nature of humanity, the idea that inside every person lies a wild primal side kept in check by civilization. Indeed, literature and film have often used the werewolf as a symbol of repressed rage or forbidden desires, erupting uncontrollably under the light of the moon. Across the world in East Asia, we find a very different kind of shapeshifter, the clever and mysterious fox. In Japanese folklore, the Kitsune, fox spirit, is a famous shapeshifter known for its intelligence and magical abilities. Kitsune are a type of yokai, spirit creature, and they can metamorphose from fox into human form, often taking the shape of a beautiful woman or a charming wanderer to deceive people. According to legend, Kitsune grow wiser and more powerful with age, and their might is shown by the number of tails they have. A fox may earn extra tails as it ages, often 1 tail per century of life, up to a maximum of 9 tails. A 9-tailed fox is extraordinarily old and powerful. In fact, Kitsune with 9 tails are said to have immense supernatural powers and near godlike knowledge. Japanese tales portray Kitsune in 2 broad categories: the Shanhu, Zenko, or good foxes, and the Yehu, Nogitsune, or wild malicious foxes. The benevolent Kitsune are often associated with Inari, the Shinto deity of rice and prosperity. Inari's sacred messengers are white fox spirits, and thousands of stone fox statues guard Inari shrines across Japan. These friendly Kitsune use their shape-changing powers to help or protect humans, sometimes appearing as kind-hearted humans who reward the faithful. The other type, the Nogitsune, are the tricksters and troublemakers. Folk stories abound of foxes that transform into alluring young women who seduce men, or into wise old monks, only to play pranks or steal food. Kitsune can cast powerful illusions and even possess humans in some tales, leading to the condition known as kitsunetsuki, fox possession. Because foxes in real life skulk around villages at night, sometimes stealing poultry, people imagine them as cunning shapeshifters just out of sight, capable of assuming human guise for mischief or malice. A legendary example of a kitsune is Tamamo no Mae, famed in Japanese lore. Tamamo no Mae was said to be a beautiful imperial courtesan in the 12th century, elegant, educated, and charming. However, her true identity was an ancient 9-tailed fox in disguise. According to the Tamamo no Mae story, this fox spirit had lived for millennia, even serving as a wicked consort in ancient China, before coming to Japan. As the story goes, the vixen captivated the Emperor Konoe, who reigned 1141 to 1155, until her magic was discovered. Tamamo no Mae nearly brought down the emperor's court with her manipulations, proving just how dangerous a fox spirit can be. Eventually, she was exposed by astrologers and slain by a hero, and her spirit imprisoned in the famous Seisho Seki, or killing stone, a boulder said to kill anyone who touched it. Intriguingly, that stone is a real volcanic rock in Nasu, Japan, which cracked open in modern times, spawning jokes that Tamamo's spirit might have escaped. The tale of Tamamo no Mae highlights the mythic fear of the shapeshifter, an otherworldly being who infiltrates human society behind a lovely mask. Yet Kitsune lore is not all frightening. Many stories are poignant or romantic. In some folktales, a fox takes human form and marries a human out of love, living harmoniously until its true nature is accidentally revealed, upon which the sorrowful Kitsune must flee. These stories show the shapeshifter as a symbol of the fragile line between the human and spirit worlds. Even today, Kitsune remain popular in Japanese culture and beyond. They appear in countless books, anime, and games, from the 9-tailed Ninetales of Pokemon to the fox-like Kyuubi in the Naruto series. But behind these modern depictions stands the old folkloric idea of the fox spirit, wise, wily, and unpredictable. The Kitsune embodies a cultural respect for foxes' cleverness, as well as a wariness of illusion. In a society where foxes were both crop protectors, eating rats, and pests, raiding farms, the shape-shifting fox became a fitting metaphor for things that are helpful yet potentially dangerous. Whether benevolent or mischievous, the kitsune's changing form reminds us that not everything is as it seems. In the traditions of the Navajo people of the American Southwest, there is a very feared type of shapeshifter known as the skinwalker. In the Navajo language, they are called Yi Naldlushi, which translates to, "With it, he goes on all fours." Unlike werewolves or kitsune, the skinwalker is not a distinct species of creature, but rather a human, specifically an evil witch, who deliberately gains the power to transform. According to Navajo lore, a person becomes a skinwalker by committing a terrible sacrilege, such as murdering a close relative. This heinous act gives them dark supernatural abilities, including the power to shapeshift at will into animals like wolves, coyotes, foxes, or bears. In fact, skinwalkers are often described as wearing the skins of the animals they transform into, hence the English term skinwalker. In Navajo belief, these witches gather in secret and perform rituals called the witchery way, using dark magic to gain the ability to change form, possess animals, or even mimic voices. The idea of the skinwalker is truly terrifying in its cultural context. Unlike a cursed werewolf who might regret their condition, a skinwalker chooses evil. They voluntarily assume animal form to prowl, wreak havoc, or harm others. At night, Navajo families would sometimes hear mysterious sounds, a knock on the wall, an animal-like whistle, and fear it was a skinwalker lurking outside. Skinwalkers in animal shape are said to move impossibly fast, with glowing eyes, and some tales claim they can walk on two legs or jump high cliffs, behaviors not normal for any animal. They also can imitate the voices of loved ones to lure people out of their homes, or even steal a person's face. According to legend, killing a skinwalker is extremely difficult. The only sure way is with bullets or knives rubbed with white ash. All of this makes skinwalkers a subject of great dread. In fact, traditional Navajo people are so reluctant to discuss these witches that even speaking the word is believed to draw them near. This taboo around talking about skinwalkers means authentic accounts are rare. A lot of what circulates about skinwalkers today comes from secondhand stories or non-Navajo sources. Despite that secrecy, the legend of the skinwalker has captured popular imagination far beyond the Navajo reservation. In the late 20th century, a series of strange events in Utah, unexplained cattle mutilations, UFO sightings, and encounters with giant wolf-like creatures, was publicized in news stories and books, bringing the skinwalker legend to a wider audience. The location of these events, a ranch in Utah, was nicknamed Skinwalker Ranch, and it became a hotspot for paranormal investigations. Witnesses described seeing a huge wolf that was impervious to gunshots, mysterious voices in unknown languages, and other eerie phenomena. While many of these claims are dubious or sensationalized, they further cemented the skinwalker's place in modern lore. Today, skinwalkers feature in horror films, TV shows, and even the Marvel Universe, where a character from Navajo tales appears as a shape-shifting superhero. This has prompted discussions about cultural appropriation, since the Navajo see skinwalker stories as sacred and not entertainment. Nonetheless, the skinwalker remains one of the most intriguing shapeshifter legends, a reminder that behind the modern pop culture version lies a very real indigenous belief about the corrupting nature of absolute power. The skinwalker myth served as a caution, a warning that those who abuse spiritual powers for evil may lose their humanity and take on the form of a monster. Werewolves, fox spirits, and skinwalkers are famous, but nearly every culture has its own shapeshifter myths. In ancient Greece and Rome, shapeshifting was often a punishment or trick of the gods. Zeus and other deities changed their own forms, or those of humans routinely. The poet Ovid's Metamorphoses is essentially a catalogue of humans turned into swans, spiders, trees, and more. Witches and sorcerers are common shape-changers too. European folklore holds many tales of witches turning into animals. For example, a witch might slip out at night in the shape of a hare to steal milk from neighbors' cows. In fairy tales, transformations often carry moral lessons. A frog prince or a beastly cursed prince, as in Beauty and the Beast, regains human form when he learns love or humility. Across the globe, we find werecats in many forms. In South Asia, there are legends of were-tigers, humans, often holy men or were-beast cultivators, who can become tigers. Africa has stories of were-leopards and were-hyenas, sometimes linked to secret societies or witchcraft. For instance, in Ethiopia and Sudan, a blacksmith or magician might turn into a hyena by night to prey on graves, a reflection of social anxieties about predators and evildoers in the community. The Selkies of Celtic lore, Ireland, Scotland, and the Faroe Islands, present a more gentle kind of shapeshifter. These are seal folk who can shed their seal skins to become human on land. Selkie women supposedly dance on moonlit beaches in human form. If a man hides her sealskin, she cannot return to the sea and may become his wife, at least until she finds her skin again. Such tales are often melancholic, symbolizing the longing for one's true home and nature. Likewise, in Slavic fairy tales, water spirits called rusalka or vila can change shape, and Central Asian myths tell of Mowgli or wolf children. The theme of animal brides or grooms is global. Stories of marriages between a human and a disguised animal, a snake prince, a swan maiden, etc., which end either in harmony or tragedy when the truth is revealed. All these myths underscore a common thread. Shapeshifting is a way to blur the line between human civilization and the wild natural world. Whether it's a nature spirit donning a human shape or a human falling under a wild curse, the transformation represents crossing a boundary that is normally fixed. Shapeshifting isn't always seen as evil or cursed, however. In many indigenous cultures, it can be a sacred ability. For example, some Native American and Siberian shamans are believed to spiritually shapeshift or take on animal forms in trance, as a way to communicate with animal spirits or travel to spiritual realms. In those contexts, turning into an animal is a gift, a sign of a holy person's power or connection to nature. This positive view of shapeshifting appears in stories where heroes or benevolent figures gain the ability. In Hindu mythology, for instance, gods and sages could change shape at will. The epic Ramayana features Hanuman, the monkey deity, altering his size and form, and demons who use disguise in battle. The idea of therianthropy, human-animal transformation, is truly universal, reflecting humanity's eternal curiosity about living as another creature. It is as if through these myths, people have explored what it means to possess the strengths or instincts of animals, or conversely, to warn of the perils of losing one's humanity. Shapeshifters have not remained stuck in old legends. They are very much alive in today's popular culture. In fact, modern fantasy and science fiction are full of shape-shifting characters, owing a great debt to the folklore we've discussed. Werewolves led the charge in pop culture. Hollywood's classic 1941 film, The Wolfman, was hugely influential in cementing the werewolf as a horror icon. Ever since, werewolves have appeared in countless movies, from horror flicks like An American Werewolf in London to teen dramas like Twilight and Teen Wolf, usually portrayed as tragic figures, cursed to transform under the full moon. Vampires, too, are classic shapeshifters on screen. Dracula has the power to turn into a bat or wolf in many stories. These monsters encapsulate the thrill and fear of shapeshifting in a visual way, with dramatic transformation scenes that movie makeup and CGI have progressively improved upon. Modern audiences still get chills from seeing a human body twist into a bestial form under moonlight. Beyond the traditional monsters, shapeshifting pops up in many genres. Science fiction loves the idea of alien shapeshifters infiltrating humanity, a concept that plays on paranoia and identity. A famous example is John W. Campbell's story, Who Goes There?, which inspired the film The Thing. In it, an alien entity can absorb and imitate any living creature, perfectly duplicating their appearance and memories. The 1982 film The Thing turned this into body horror gold, as characters, and the audience, never know who is human and who is the shape-changing alien. Similarly, Invasion of the Body Snatchers featured alien pods replacing people with identical-looking imposters. These stories draw on the age-old fear of shapeshifters as imposters among us. Fantasy fiction often treats shapeshifting more as a wondrous skill. In J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, we meet Bjorn, a man who can turn into a great bear. In the Harry Potter series, wizards called animagi can freely morph into animals, like Professor McGonagall turning into a tabby cat. Such examples present shape-changing as an ability to be learned or gifted, rather than a curse. Children's stories, too, have playful shapeshifters. Consider how Merlin and Madame Mim duel by constantly changing forms in Disney's The Sword and the Stone, each turning into different animals to outwit the other. This harkens back to an old Arthurian literary trope of wizards shape-shifting to battle, demonstrating knowledge is power. Merlin wins by knowing the form of a germ invisible to Mim. Comic books and superhero films feature numerous shapeshifters. In Marvel Comics, Mystique of the X-Men is a famous example, a mutant who can mimic any person's appearance down to the retina, making her the ultimate infiltrator. Marvel also has alien races like the Skrulls, green-skinned extraterrestrials who can impersonate humans at will. The recent Marvel films and shows have even explored a Skrull invasion theme, directly tapping that body snatcher-style fear. Over in DC Comics, the hero Martian Manhunter can not only shapeshift into different people, but even monstrous creatures or stretch his limbs. His entire body is pliable. DC's roster also includes Beast Boy, who can change into any animal, and Clayface, a villain who is basically living clay that can assume any form. These characters bring shapeshifting to the mainstream in a superheroic context, often using it either as a disguise or a combat tactic. Television and streaming series offer many shapeshifter stories as well. For instance, the sci-fi series Star Trek Deep Space Nine featured Odo, a member of an alien changeling race who lives as the space station's security chief and can liquefy and reshape himself at will. Doctor Who introduced alien species like the Zygons that impersonate humans. Fantasy horror shows like Supernatural and The Witcher regularly include shapeshifting monsters, doppelgangers, skinwalkers, etc., as antagonists. Even in animated shows and video games, shapeshifting is a popular power. In the Mortal Kombat video game series, the sorcerer Shang Tsung can morph into the image of any fighter he's encountered. Role-playing games often let characters shapeshift, e.g., druids that turn into animals, or were creatures as playable forms. This wide adoption of shapeshifting in media shows how versatile and exciting the concept is. It adds drama through disguise and deception, action through transformation in battle, and metaphorical depth to characters, and it's directly inspired by the old myths. Modern creators often give a nod to folklore, such as naming a werewolf character Lycaon, or referencing the nine-tailed fox myth when a game features a nine-tailed demon. Interestingly, shapeshifting has even crept into conspiracy theories and urban legends. One bizarre modern myth claims that world leaders are secretly reptilian shapeshifters, a conspiracy popularized by author David Icke, who asserts that alien lizard people can masquerade as human politicians. While not taken seriously by scholars, this idea shows that shapeshifters still serve as a canvas for our fears, in this case, fears of hidden control by unseen forces. On a more lighthearted note, shapeshifting is beloved in children's media. Think of how Disney's Frozen reconceived the Snow Queen as Elsa with her transformative ice powers, or how characters like Shrek, an ogre who can take a human form via potion, put a comedic spin on shape-changing. In short, from the darkest horror film to the funniest cartoon, shapeshifters continue to capture our imagination. They allow stories to explore what it means to change identity, to hide among society, or to unleash one's inner potential. As one modern analysis notes, shapeshifting stories persist because they address fundamental aspects of human psychology, societal fears, and desires. In other words, they speak to something very primal in us, just as the ancient myths did. Why do shapeshifter tales endure, and what do they mean on a deeper level? Scholars and storytellers have long noted that shapeshifting is often a metaphor. It externalizes inner transformations or conflicts. For example, the werewolf can symbolize the struggle between one's civilized self and one's savage instincts, the human versus the beast within. In many werewolf stories, the condition might stand in for uncontrolled rage or lust, hence the person blacks out and does terrible things in wolf form, then feels guilt as a human. More generally, shapeshifters can represent the fluidity of identity. A being that is sometimes one thing, sometimes another, poses the question, what is their true self? This resonates with real human experiences. We all wear masks or change roles in different settings, though not as literally as a shapeshifter does. Modern narratives play with this. For instance, a shapeshifter who loses track of their original form can reflect a person's identity crisis or alienation from their true self. The struggle to control one's transformations, common in shapeshifter fiction, is often likened to the struggle to control one's emotions, addictions, or darker impulses. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, while not a supernatural shape-shifting tale, is a classic Victorian metaphor along these lines. A scientific serum allows a respectable man to metamorphose into his evil alter ego, Mr. Hyde, unleashing urges he cannot normally act on. The popularity of that story cemented the idea of physical transformation as an expression of inner truth. Hyde is smaller and uglier because he represents Jekyll's stunted, ugly moral self. Culturally, shapeshifter myths also served as cautionary tales or social commentary. Many warn against the violation of norms or divine laws. When someone is transformed as punishment, like Actaeon turned to a stag for his voyeurism, or many a fairy tale character cursed into beast form for their pride, the moral is clear: behave or suffer an inhuman fate. In indigenous cultures, shape-shifting witches such as skinwalkers embody the idea of the community's most taboo sins made manifest. They are what happens when a person goes against society and nature in the worst way. Fear of shapeshifters might also reflect xenophobia or mistrust, symbolizing outsiders or neighbors who are not what they seem. In medieval Europe, for example, claiming someone was a werewolf or witch was a way to explain unexpected calamities, essentially accusing them of being a hidden monster in human skin. Thus, shapeshifter lore could reinforce community boundaries. Beware of the stranger, or even the neighbor with the unassuming face, because they might harbor a dangerous secret. In a more positive light, some shape-shifting legends emphasize harmony with nature. For instance, tales of shamans turning into animals suggest that humans can connect so deeply with the natural world that they literally become part of it. These stories uphold values of respect for animals and the environment. They imply that the boundary between human and animal is permeable, and perhaps that humans are animals with souls not so different from the creatures around us. It's also worth noting how transformation in myths can represent cycles of life and renewal. In some stories, a change of form is a path to redemption or enlightenment. A prince turned into a beast learns kindness and is restored, symbolizing personal growth. A fox spirit striving to gain extra tails and live 1,000 years reflects a quest for wisdom. Shape-shifting gods often use their ability to teach or test humans. For example, the god in disguise testing whether a mortal will show hospitality to a humble animal or old man. If the mortal passes the test, the god might reveal their true form and reward them. In this way, the shapeshifter motif is tied to the idea that appearances can be deceiving, and virtue or vice will be revealed regardless of outward form. Many folktales drive home that message. One should treat even a mangy dog or odd-looking stranger kindly, because they just might be a powerful being in disguise. From a psychological viewpoint, shapeshifters fascinate us because they break the normal rules of identity and form, something both frightening and liberating. They are liminal figures, living on the threshold between categories: human, animal, male, female, mortal, immortal. Such figures are often potent in storytelling. They evoke the mystery of change, the fact that nothing is permanent and anything can become something else. This taps into primal fears of chaos and loss of control, hence why being transformed against one's will is a recurring horror element, but also the hope of transformation and escape, why so many heroes in fiction gain shapeshifting as a power to overcome obstacles. In every shapeshifter story, implicit is the question of what it means to be human. If a person becomes a wolf in body but retains their mind, are they still human? If a fox becomes a woman and lives for years in society, was she real the whole time? These paradoxes keep us intrigued. Shapeshifters have journeyed with us from the fireside legends of antiquity to the digital screens of the 21st century. The werewolves, kitsune, skinwalkers, and other shape-changers of myth gave form to humanity's oldest dreams and nightmares, the idea of becoming other. In them we see reflections of our own dual nature, the animal and the civilized, the hidden and the revealed. We also see a projection of our fears of the unknown, the enemy that looks like everyone else, the loved one who might wear a monster's face, the instability of form and identity in a changing world. Yet shapeshifter stories also carry wonder and hope, the notion that one could fly as a bird, swim as a fish, take on the strength of a beast, or shed an old skin for a new one. It is no surprise that shapeshifting is woven throughout mythology, literature, and popular culture, and remains a timeless theme, reflecting fundamental human concerns. From the Epic of Gilgamesh to today's blockbuster films, we never tire of imagining transformations. In the end, Whether feared as demons or celebrated as heroes, shapeshifters mirror the endless capacity for transformation in life itself. Just as the moon waxes and wanes, seasons turn, and caterpillars become butterflies, our stories insist that forms are transient. The next time you watch a movie, werewolves sprout fur and fangs, or guide a video game character to morph into a dragon, remember that you are participating in an ancient narrative lineage. These tales endure because they speak to something elemental in us. We are all, in a sense, shapeshifters, changing with time, adapting to our world, and forever curious about what it would be like to walk in another skin. The legend of the shapeshifter, therefore, is ultimately a legend about change itself, and that is a story that will never grow old.